Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Change Your Mind podcast. I'm your host, Chris Ashley. I'm really excited for my guest today, Iris. We are going to have a great conversation. But first, just a couple quick announcements. Head over to the links in the show notes. You'll find a link to my book, Change Your Mind to Change Your Reality. You'll find links to my free masterclass, free downloads, as well as my courses, coaching, ways to connect on social media. And you'll find all my guests link as well. Okay, so with me today, I have Iris Angellys. So Iris is an author, artist, mentor, healer, workshop facilitator, chiropractor, and applied kinesiologist. Her writing is based on a combination of her own lived experience and insights that she's gained from seeing over 25,000 patients after nearly 30 years of practice. Iris has a deep passion to empower people to thrive in their lives and bodies so they can offer the world the gift of their unique soul frequency. So welcome, Iris. I'm really excited to have you here today.
Thank you so much, Chris. I'm really pleased to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, and I put that emphasis on chiropractor because we were just talking chiropractics before, and I didn't even realize you were a chiropractor. So of course you know all of this stuff. Awesome. So I always start my episodes the same way, and that is by asking my guests, what's their origin story? How did you get started on this path? So I'd love if you could share with myself and listeners how you got started.
Okay, it's kind of a long story.
That's okay. We've got time.
Cool. I'm Danish originally and grew up in Denmark. Grew up in Denmark as a ordinary little kid. And then I moved to Spain with my mum when I was 10 years old, and my parents got divorced at that point. So I went from being this ordinary little kid growing up in a place where everybody looked the same, had the same values, to somewhere where I looked really conspicuous because I was, tall, blonde and blue-eyed and stuck out like the proverbial sore thumb, and got a lot of the wrong kind of attention as a result. And it felt like I just didn't fit in or didn't belong or something along those lines. Like, don't get me wrong, living in Spain was a incredibly enriching experience, but also just never felt safe there. And then, also didn't feel like I fitted in at school. So I came out of my teens feeling really uncomfortable in my skin. I felt like, either I was mad and the world was mad, and everybody else seemed to agree on what the world was and how it worked. So it must be me that's mad. And how do I fit myself into this, what I appear to be expected to be or do? And then I started the personal growth journey pretty much in my late teens and early 20s, just basically searching for how can I feel comfortable myself and my being and my skin. And then there were a couple of really big events. So one was meeting a man and marrying him. So at this point in time, I was in Scotland because I'd finished my chiropractic studies and had my first work there. And so this man was Australian, and I moved to Australia for him, and having never been to Australia before, not knowing any other soul in Australia. And as it turns out, he was quite abusive. And one of the clearest moments in my mind was, we're standing at the kitchen table and, he'd just broken up with me again for the third time, give me back his wedding rings and whatnot. And there was a part of me that went, no, if I bend any further, I'm going to break, and I'm not prepared to break for anyone. And this realization that everything I thought I had been taught, and I say that deliberately because I'm quite certain that I took stuff in ways that they weren't meant at the time when I was growing up. Mm-hmm. So everything I thought I had been taught was up for reassessment and taken apart. And the parts that were working for me, I would keep, and the parts that didn't work for me, I would find out ways to change them. So that was a really big turning point, and I was about 26 or something like that at the time. And that led down the path of more personal growth and more seminars and more books and more applying this searching. And what's interesting in that context is that I've found out, A, that it actually was me who was sane and the world that's mad. And the nice thing about that is that I've now found other people who agree with me and see the world in very similar ways to the way I do. And I now feel really comfortable in my skin. And what happened, I think it was last year, so about 25 years after I had that original something isn't right here, I actually was challenged by a friend who was projecting a lot of stuff onto me, and then it was up to me to make her feel comfortable. And I actually stood in my power, and I stood in my ground, and in the knowledge that I know who I am and what my intention is when I relate to somebody, which is always one of, I want you to thrive, you know, like it's fairly straightforward, and I'll do my best to help you with that. So I stood in my power, knowing who I was and what I was about. And I didn't step in to try to fix it or make her feel better or, you know, change myself so she could feel more comfortable around me. And it was almost like that book ended that initial experience. So the whole thing took about 25 years. And life has been unfolding magically ever since, pretty much. So yeah, it's been a whole life journey so far, and would be keeping going, I guess.
Thank you so much for sharing all that. I appreciate your honesty and your vulnerability. And, you know, I think so many listeners, so many people out there, especially people who are coaches or are in a profession where they're helping others, have gotten to that point themselves where they're like, something has to change, right? Like, I need to reinvent myself. I need to take a right turn here. Like, and then that searching for more knowledge, like you said, the workshops and the books, like it's so relatable. And I think people who find this podcast are in that searching mode too, right? And I also, you know, just wanted to comment on people projecting onto you. You know, that's something that I've personally experienced before too. And I love that lesson that you just shared of, no, like, I know who I am. I know how I've showed up for this person. I know what my intentions are. And like everything else is their stuff. And that's a really difficult place to get to, of knowing like what stuff belongs to someone else and what's yours, right? And to stand in your ground. So, you know, I just want to call that out, that that's a big deal.
I think especially for women, like if you think about it, women are trained from a very young age to not only take responsibility for what they do and how they show up in the world and how, you know, they dress and what they look like, they're also made responsible for how somebody else, generally a man, will actually react to how we show up in the world. So that actually lets the men off the hook and makes the woman responsible for, you know, somebody else's perception of who they are. So it's a really early training, and it's actually quite toxic, I feel. So, you know, like it's everywhere that, you know, you're not okay, I've got to fix you.
Yeah.
It
And, you
doesn't
know,
help anybody.
totally. And I cut your bio a little short, but what I left out is that you've written 2 books. And the first one is a women's empowerment book that encourages women to you know, look beyond their bodies, right? Because so many people focus on their flaws, and you know, they're disliking their physical body in the 3D. So can you talk a little bit more about that? Because I think that's a perfect segue.
Yeah, so the first book, basically the way that I write books is that I get this idea that drops into my head, and that idea is sitting there in my head until such time I've written it down. So that's how I started writing the first book. So these archetypes started dropping in. Can I just show you the book? It looks like this.
And is that your doggy?
Yeah, that's my doggy.
Oh.
So yeah, I started getting these downloads about all these different archetypes. So what an archetype is basically an energy that you can embody. It's a particular set of ways in which you show up in the world. So the archetypes that are discussed are, for example, the mother. You know, so everybody has a mother. So everybody has hopefully experienced mothering. So each archetype has a way that they flow through the world in a way that's really in alignment. Like I've met a woman who said, oh, I felt really selfish having children because I just loved being a mother so much. And to me, it's like, no, you're the person that should be having children. Like you should absolutely have children because that's how you like to show up in the world. That's what you love. That's what lights you up. And that's what life is about, right? So what I'm encouraging in this book is to just feel into these energies, feel into these ways of being in the world, feel into how you would do these different things. And how do you do them? Well, you try some of I've got examples of how you could do that. So with mothering, for example, you might enjoy cooking, or you might not enjoy cooking, but if you try cooking something from scratch and you decide you like it, then you can keep going with it. And if you decide you don't like it, well, then try something else, try gardening or whatever it is for any given archetype. And by doing, it's almost like when we were a kid and we had this big box with different outfits and we could go through, and today we're a princess and tomorrow we're, I don't know, a rabbit or a chimney sweep or whatever. Yeah. So these are all different roles that we can play. And only you know what role really suits you, what role really aligns with your heart. Only you know what role makes you light up and feel at ease in the world and feel like what you give the world is from an overflowing cup. Like how many women are out there working and raising a family and they're always behind the 8 ball. They're always tired. And like their light just dims because there's just these outside demands. That means that they're actually not supported in flourishing. So I'm saying just try different things. And if it doesn't work, cool, just move on to something else until you find the thing that does. Because if you don't, and you're in a role of, for example, mother, there are potential shadow sides to that as well. Like the typical, after everything I have done for you, now you treat me like this. That's not somebody who enjoyed mothering. That's somebody who did mothering in order to get a particular something back. So that's not a clean transaction. That's not an unconditional transaction. So, try the different things, find the things that work for you, and then do more of that. And the thing is, if you love baking cakes and you give them to people to eat, they will feel wonderful eating those cakes. And that might mean you don't have to invent a machine to clean up the oceans. You leave that to somebody who does that, and it just flows out of them. So what my heart's desire is for every human to thrive, for every human to be in alignment with their soul, for every human to be able to express their own unique, beautiful heart frequency into the world, because we like the cells in our body. Yeah, we each have our own thing, our own job, and what our job is the thing that lights us up. It's the thing that makes our heart sing. So if we can each do that, then we will end up in a society where humans are kind, caring, compassionate, and happy and joyful because everybody is doing their thing, right?
Totally. It just makes me think of like following your joy, right? Like follow
absolutely.
Do more of what makes you feel good. Like keep adding to your pile of goodness. So I'm so curious, what are the other archetypes besides mother?
So we've got the mother. So it roughly follows the chakra. So we've got the mother, then we've got the witch. And this is not, this is a tricky archetype because they got a bad rap, a couple of 100 years ago. But a witch or wild woman, I've called her as well. So this is just a woman who lives for the enjoyment of what physical life can give you. Enjoys the sensual pleasure, the dancing, the food, the patting soft fur, just like, I actually think that the more we can enjoy the physicality of our life, the more present we are for our lives. And that's what the wild woman is really good at. She's also not very good at being tamed. She's not somebody who will fit in, which is, I think, why this archetype gets repressed a lot. Then we have the warrior woman. So the warrior woman is the one who goes and fights for the things that she believes in. That's probably pretty self-explanatory. Then we have the healer. So a healer is someone, not necessarily somebody who's actually in the healing professions. Like, you can work at a checkout, and if you're a healer archetype, people actually feel better when they leave the supermarket just because of the heart space that you can hold for them, So this is somebody who just has a presence, has an ability to listen with deep, deep compassion for somebody else, largely because she knows that under certain circumstances she might be in the world in the same way and can heal just by being present as opposed to actually needing to be doing something. Then we have the storyteller. So this is the creative artist who, you know, enriches the world with her words or her song or her creations. And then we have the seer. So this is somebody who can see a pattern and can then understand what's the common theme behind all of these patterns.
More like analytical mind.
It's, to me, it's very intuitive, actually. I guess it's analytical as well, but to me, it's very, well, my process is very intuitive. So I can't think of an example right now. So if you see somebody, okay, so let's go for a relationship. So if you see a friend who suddenly has to ask her new boyfriend if she can go out, and who can't answer the phone unless he's in the room, or you know, like those kind of things, and you can see, hang on a second, this doesn't sit right. I think he's actually being very controlling of her. So that's the kind of thing. So we can take things that might not necessarily look like they're connected, but you can see the connection behind them. To me, the seer is also somebody who can take like a universal energy and then find how she can translate that into her life and express it in her life. So so this is all very personal, but like, you know, one of my ways of being in the world is as a healer. So I could have, you know, that's my energy that I'm downloading. So I could have become a chiropractor and applied kinesiologist, which I did, or I could start medicine, or I could have studied massage, or I could have done naturopathy, or any one of those things. It was just like, how am I particularly going to express this energy of healer in my life?
Yeah.
And then there's the mystic, which is somebody who is really in tune with source, God, the universe, whatever you like to use the word for the oneness, and who really lives that connection with, I'm a spiritual being having a human being experience, and who can also just hold the whole world in a really compassionate way, knowing that we're really not separate beings. And then there's also the triple goddess of old, so the maiden, the mother, and the wise woman, who kind of follow us in different parts of our lives. So traditionally, it's, you know, you're a maiden when you're young, before you've decided where you want to go in life, what it is you want to do with your life. And then traditionally, once you had your first child, you went into the mother archetype. But you can also do that by starting a job, a career, or starting a business, or birthing something else other than a child. So even women who don't have children are able to be mothers in that way. Mm-hmm. And then the wise woman, who traditionally would be when you became a grandmother or when you went through menopause. And, you know, that's kind of when you hold space for all the younger women behind you, because you've accumulated all this wisdom along the way. And you can tuck those young women under your wing and kind of go, hey, you know, you don't need to do that. You know, you're beautiful and you're perfect just as you are. Well, that's how I do it anyway. So that's the main archetypes in there. And then the other things in that book is I interviewed women of different ages that I knew had overcome incredible experiences in their lives, and who were clearly thriving on the back of having had all these experiences. Because I feel it's really important for women to know that, yes, they might be in a really bad situation right now, but there are other women who have been in situations like that and they have overcome it, and here's how they did it. So I've had a lot of comments that people find these women's stories very, very inspirational, because some of them are really, really quite dark, and they're incredible women. You know, they're just, yeah, stunning women who are just out there doing it, shining their lights, and just being amazing, you know, and inspirational. So that's obviously why I asked them for their stories, to share their stories.
Yeah. And that's exactly why I asked guests to share their origin stories at the beginning, because there's this common thread. Like, so many people have their awakening after so much darkness, right? After trauma. And the people who come on my show tend to have gone through a lot of trauma and come out the other side thriving, right?
Yeah.
Learned from it, grew from it, leveled up from it, rose in consciousness, and now they're helping others, which is, the most inspirational. So thank you for walking me through those archetypes. I'm like trying to think like who I am. It's funny. It's like, you can see bits of yourself in multiple.
Mm.
Do you have a method for helping people figure out what archetype they are, or is it just kind of like up to their own intuition?
Well, that's what the book is about. I walk people through how the archetypes showed up, what the shadow sides are. Like when I started writing the book, I thought, oh, I'm definitely that and that. And then as I kept writing the book, I realized actually I do all of these at different times. Like I don't consider myself to be a really strong mother archetype. But if there is a young woman that I really, connect with, don't you go doing something harmful to her, because literally mama bear is going to come out big time. Or if I've been away and I come back home, usually what I start doing is cooking something fancy, because it's just really grounding for me. And, if you told me 30 years ago that I would enjoy cooking one day, I was like, yeah, what are you talking about? That's just never going to happen, So the archetypes aren't fixed, and you can walk in and out of them. And like, to me, back to that little, box with different outfits, like know when to wear which outfit, and yeah, some of them you might use more than others, like I use the healer and the seer archetype most. But that doesn't mean that I can't step into one of the other ones when that actually is the most appropriate way of being in the world at the time, So that's why I'm encouraging to play with them, like the more choices you have, the more conscious you can live your life. Like if you think I'm A, B, and C, and these are the three ways that I can show up in the world, then it limits your choices and it makes you more reactive. One of the key things I think for us in life is to know that we do have a choice in how we show up in the world. And generally, this is really important to remember when we get triggered. Yeah, when we get triggered, we usually go into the ugliest parts of ourselves, and the shadow side comes out. But when we're triggered is the most important time to remember that, okay, if I do this right now, is that actually going to give me the long-term outcome that I want? Or is it just going to make me feel good in the moment to get all this stuff out, even if it's not appropriate or in proportion to what's actually going on for me here? So if you can just stop, observe, and go, okay, am I actually choosing to go with this? And more often than not, the answer is no when you're triggered. And you can then choose something else. It frees up your ability to connect with people in another way. So I think that the whole thing about knowing they have choice, like even if you're in a situation that seems very limited in the way of choices, there's always a choice in how you, and I think this is your thing, right? How you actually perceive it, how you talk to yourself about it, right? So if you can change how you perceive it, then you can change how you are with it. And that's how you create peace in your own life.
Absolutely. And that totally is my jam. And I love how you said it. I don't think I could have said it better, because, everything that happens is really neutral, right? Like we place meaning on top of things when we interact with them, when we label them based on our past experiences. But there's a million different ways to look at one thing, right? It becomes this subjective thing. We say it's good or bad or right or wrong. And, oftentimes our triggers are our mirrors, right? They show us what unhealed aspects of ourselves we are, right? If we had already healed that part of ourselves, we wouldn't have this strong emotional reaction to it. So to be able to do what you just said, take a step back, pause, and be like, oh, wait, I have a choice. I can choose to react emotionally. I can choose to respond thoughtfully. I can choose to let it roll off and just let it go, right? That's like ultimate mastery, to just like let it go. That's a sign that you're like really healing that specific issue.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome. So, I know you wrote a second book too, and I have my notes over here from our first conversation. There's so much I want to hit on. And you talk about ways to look at bodies. But before we get into that, talk to me a little bit about how we typically think about bodies on 3D Earth and how what you do is different.
We'll just show you that one as well.
The body is the portal to your soul if you're listening and not watching.
That's right. So my observation is, like, having been in chiropractic practice for nearly 30 years, that most of us, as we grow up, are trained out of actually feeling our bodies. Yeah, we're taught that, or I feel like I was taught that, anything body related was kind of dirty and shameful, and really, it was the thoughts that were noble and all that sort of thing. And having been in practice for this long and knowing what bodies actually do for us, like, it is just miraculous what they do, like it's, oh, okay, right. So our bodies are this incredible being with its own intelligence that knows how to digest your food, knows how to move a muscle so you can get from A to B. The heart knows how to beat, which is appropriate to whatever's going on for you. Your lungs know how to breathe without you having to think about it. It does all these things all by itself without us having to spare a thought on it.
If I can cut in, it also knows how to grow a human being, right? Which is just wild.
That's just miraculous, right? Like, yes. It's just totally mind-blowing when you think about it. You start out with that one cell and you end up with a perfect, complete human being after 9 months. It's mind-blowing. So our bodies know what they need and how to thrive in 3D physical reality. Yeah, they know when you need water. They know when you need to eat. They know what food you need to eat. They know when they need rest. They know when they need play. They know when they need exercise. Hopefully play and exercise go together. They know when they need to just rest. They know when they need nurture. They know when they need, a challenge, like, they know all these things. And here's the thing, like, to me, our bodies and the cells in our body love us the same way that we would love the night sky, the same way that we would love Mother Nature. So our bodies want to have a fun and thriving and expansive and interesting experience with us here on planet Earth, right? And they tell us what we need, like they say, oh, you actually need rest now. No, if we're in the middle of something, we go, yeah, no, not going to happen. I'll have another coffee. And then the body the next day says, do you know how you didn't rest yesterday when I needed you to? Well, I really need you to rest twice as long today because I gave you all that energy from today to use up yesterday. I've got, yeah, no, not happening. I'm busy. And then we have another coffee, right? So let me wonder when we're tired all the time. Like, our bodies will tell us what they need. More often than not, we ignore it. And then that's when things start going downhill. Yeah, that's when our bodies are going to start hurting. That's when our bodies are going to start getting sick. And then if we keep going in this mode of, my body is my tool and it better do what I want it to do when I want it to do it, we pop a pill, we suppress the symptom, we don't have a conversation with our body, and then eventually we do get sick, and we're basically forced to do what our body wanted us to do back when it first started talking to us about it. So if we can see our bodies as, like, I like to think of my body as a pet, it's like this little animal that has all this intelligence. And, if I have a horse or a dog, I want that animal to thrive. I will give it the best food I can and give it exercise and give it a nice place to rest. And I will give it water and I will, give it sunshine and all these things so that this little body can thrive. Why wouldn't I treat my own body in the same way when it's such an incredible, it's the home for my soul while I'm on this planet, and it's the only being I will absolutely be with till my last breath, till I hop off the planet again, right? So most people have this really fraught relationship with the bodies, like I said earlier, like, we hate our bodies, we focus on the flaws, we, do this and the next thing to make them look different and to, match up with some idea of somebody who's already stunningly beautiful and has been photoshopped. We want to look like that. Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, isn't it more important what it actually feels like to be in your body than what it looks like? And if you feel good in your body, that body is going to look good. You yourself are stunning example of this. Look at how beautiful you are,
Oh, you're so kind.
So if we can change our perception of our body to it's a miraculous thing, we will start treating it differently. So in the book I give different ways in which you can interact with your body, because by understanding all these different aspects, it's back to choice. What is it that actually resonates with you? Does it resonate to interact with your body as if it's a beautiful pet? Or, for example, the body is also a liquid crystal. Like usually we say about 2/3 water, but I think if it comes down to molecular weight, we're like 99% water. So most of our bodies are actually water. So they're a liquid crystal. And if you look at Masaru Emoto, who's that Japanese sage who photographed water molecules, if you look at his water molecules, if you have a harmonious, like if you have a nice thing, like, if you have love, or if you have gratitude, or if you have peace or friendship or harmony, then if that's your frequency that you go in, your water molecules in the body will be hexagonal, and they will be able to transmit energy really easily. If you go into hate or despair or anger or grief or any of those things, okay, caveat here, you have to be authentic with what's going on for you, right? Like if you're feeling those things and you pretend that they're not there, then you stuff them into your body. So feel them if they come up for you, but don't stay there is the key. Yeah, if we can make our basic frequency one of kindness or care or love or compassion or gratitude, then the water molecules in the body will change and conduct electricity really easily. And that's when our body is happy. So when you have a glass of water, give that water some gratitude for refreshing a liquid crystal. And, it blows my mind that we're actually a liquid crystal. My mind blows a lot.
I love that description. I've never heard us called a liquid crystal, but it makes sense because we're like crystals transmute energy, right? They're conductors. And that's really what we are, right?
Absolutely.
And we are so powerful, right?
Yes.
So no, that's really cool. And I love Masaru Emoto's stuff too.
Yeah.
It's just so fascinating. And I think everyone pretty much knows who he is at this point, but listeners, if you don't, Japanese scientist who took water molecules, put them on petri dishes, wrote things like love and peace and beauty and harmony on some of them, looked under a microscope, perfect, beautiful, crystalline structure like a snowflake, then wrote, I hate you, and, anger and all these other negative things on other ones. And the structure, it was just like this mess, right? It was unclear, it was not symmetrical, and the whole thing is, it's like if words can do that to water, imagine what they can do to people, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So what are the words that you're talking to your body with?
Yeah.
Like you're ugly and I hate you, like what's that going to do to your body, to your little pet that's walking you through life?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially when we think about like words manifest, right? So
Absolutely.
you're gonna manifest that, right? That's how you're projecting out into the world, and that's how other people are gonna pick up on your energy too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's how you get those deranged water molecules in your body that then down the track, if you don't take that opportunity for healing, will become illness, basically.
Yeah.
It's that energy stuck in your body that, yeah, like one of the reasons why we do that is because we're taught that certain emotions or certain habits or certain thoughts or certain beliefs aren't acceptable. So we are taught to disown that part of ourselves, but that part of ourselves doesn't go away. That part of ourselves is still there. And every time we get triggered, it gets bigger when we try to suppress it. So the invitation is there to go, oh, okay, like you said before, I got triggered. Okay, so what's this actually about? And do a healing process, whatever one works for you, to find out what it is and invite that part of yourself back in, because that part has wisdom and knowledge that you can benefit from, the same way that you, the adult version of you, has wisdom and knowledge that part can benefit from. So it's an invitation to basically become more of who we are. And then the more the charge comes off those situations, the more when a similar situation comes up where that unpleasant emotion or thought or belief comes up, you can actually sit with it much more easily. And that way you can move through your body and you can go back to your general frequency, and you don't spend all that energy on resisting what actually is there. Yeah, so you have a lot more energy.
Yeah, absolutely. And just thinking about when you just said, there's certain things we're not encouraged to feel or think, like one of those is that, we're beautiful and we're amazing and we're perfect, right? Which is totally the opposite of what it should be. It's almost like self-deprecation gets rewarded to a certain sense
Yes. Yes.
in society, and it makes people feel like they can't feel good about themselves, right? Because then you're vain or you're selfish or whatever. But like we there's a difference between like self-confidence, like we want people to feel good about themselves.
Yes, absolutely. I feel that that's quite deliberate, because people who own their power and their passion and their beauty and their potential, they're not so easily led, they're not so easily manipulated. So if you keep a population in fear and trying to live up to some ideal that's absolutely impossible, then you can direct them much more easily, and they haven't got their own energy available to create the lives that they want for themselves. So yeah, that suits the current culture, let's say.
Yeah, that makes sense. So when you in your book, when you divide or when you give different ways of looking at the body, like the light crystal or the pet, is this all to inspire people to treat themselves better, to work with their bodies better, or like what outcomes have you seen, I guess would be a good question.
Yeah, so that there are a few others. Like our body is a cell in nature as well, or our bodies are a chemical symphony, or our bodies are actually light beings. Like every atom is really just condensed light, and we as beings emit light. So if you say somebody's looking really bright, that's actually literal. It's not a metaphor. Or somebody's looking dark, then their light is contained within them, or they're not shining as brightly, shall we say. So I've given all these different ways of relating to the body, so that people can again play with these concepts. Like spend a week going, I'm a liquid crystal, and really be aware of water. And then every time you drink water, you're really consciously drinking this water and thinking about how it goes and refreshes all the cells in your body. Or if you are having my body is a chemical symphony week, you really notice, okay, so if I'm eating this particular food, what does my body actually tell me subsequently about how it feels? Like, does this make me feel good? Or do I feel lethargic afterwards? Or do I get a hangover? And if we're having light week, go out into the sunshine and notice how that feels, especially at sunrise. Personally, is a favorite time of mine. Or dusk as well, and interact with that sunlight and let that go in your skin. And how does that make your body feel versus sitting in LED lights in an enclosed, room with no natural light? And notice what makes you shine brighter and what makes you what dims your light. Because you actually feel that, right? Like when you're feeling bright, you're feeling bright. And when you're not feeling bright, you kind of contract into yourself. So notice what situations make you brighter and what situations make you dim. So again, they're just different ways of playing in the world and trying different things on, so that you can find out what's your preferred way of moving in the world, and then you do more of that, because it does support you and it does make you thrive. Like everything in my books is about supporting you to do you in the best possible, most expansive way. And I'm really lucky to have a mind that's a bit lateral, so can come up with all these different ways of doing it, so that people can find the one that actually suits them, or find one that I haven't thought of that really works for them.
Yeah, it's super fun. It makes it, I don't know. I always say that life is a game. It's fun, right? Especially when we think about we can manifest what we want, and we can, like, we're conscious creators. And this is just such a playful way of looking at life and our bodies and, our personalities and all of these things. So I think it's really, really cool. And just going back to the light thing, like they can actually measure light coming off of the human body. Like this is scientifically proven. It's amazing.
Absolutely.
Like we glow.
Yes. Yes.
And I like that you said go out on sunrise, because then you get that red light, and that's like so good for you first thing in the morning to get that red light. The thing that I always say, and I don't know if this is empowering for other people, but I I resonate with it is that our bodies are our avatars. That it's this, you know, this amazing, I don't want to say machine because that makes it sound so robotic, but it's
Mm.
just this amazing avatar that allows us to play on 3D Earth, to do the things we love, to feel emotions, to travel, to dance, to do yoga, to all these things. And it houses us, which are these amazing spiritual beings, right? And it's almost
Yes.
like this little I don't know, I would say like the body is the avatar and our mind is like the computer that runs it, but like we're the thing that sits behind that. So that's the one that resonates with me. But I like the idea of the pet because, you know, my dog, I would do anything for him, right? I just want to like you said, feed him all the best food and make sure he gets exercise. So it makes you feel that love and compassion for yourself more. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I love the concept of life as play. Like I know when I was young, I took life way too seriously, and it's one way of disconnecting from being in the present moment. Whereas if you can, like same thing with failure. You know, if you can look at it as play, if we fail, we go, oh well, that didn't work. Did I learn something from it? Yep, brilliant. Okay, so let's try something else. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
And ultimately, like, who do you have to prove what to? Like, this is about you having a 3D physical experience in the world. Really, you can't do it wrong. You really can't fail. You just have different experiences. And as long as you do that, your soul's going, hey, brilliant, you know, fantastic. Now I've tried that. My human didn't like it very much, but I can now make other choices because I know if I do this, that's the outcome. I don't like the outcome, you know. So the more we can play with life, the less seriously we can take it, the more easily it flows, the more we can be present for it and not judge ourselves for not reaching some impossible standard that we've been taught we need to reach.
I couldn't agree more. I love that. I always say like fail forward, right? But but it's the same thing. It's like I don't know. I just love what you said. Like life, we take it so seriously. So seriously. And especially when you look out at the world and all the issues people are fighting for and everything going on in the news and it's just like so heavy, but we're these amazing spiritual beings having this human experience right now. Like there is so much more to life than eat, sleep, money, entertainment, work, right? Like there's like we're here to experience, right? What it's like
Mm,
to be a human and on this beautiful planet. And there's so much more we could focus on, like these conversations and life and love and the universe. And you know, I don't know, people get so bogged down sometimes and take it so serious.
mm,
Uh,
mm,
and this is such a great reminder to just be a little lighter with it all.
mm. Yeah.
Awesome. So, I can't believe an hour went by already. I feel like I
Is
say
it?
that
Goodness,
every
okay.
episode. I'm like, how did an hour go by? Which is why I love doing these, like when it's just a conversation, because we just get like so swept up in it. Um,
Mm.
is there any last thoughts you want to leave people with? Something maybe we didn't touch on today that you really wanted to get across to listeners?
Yes. So, um, for me, the single biggest, most powerful practice that changed my life around is gratitude.
Mm.
Um, well, gratitude has really beautiful water molecules for one, and the more the more you are grateful, the more you feel that or channel that emotion of gratitude, the more you will find to be grateful for. I did a gratitude diary for a year, and this was a suggestion by somebody, and I started writing out I am grateful for, and then bullet point this and this. It didn't work. When I actually wrote out I am grateful for my dog, I am grateful for my home, I am grateful for my husband, I am grateful for food on my table. It's almost like it becomes a 3-dimensional affirmation because you're writing it as well, and that really worked. And the beautiful thing about gratitude is you can be grateful for really small things. I'm grateful that my hands know how to go to the tap and put water in my glass. I'm grateful I've got running water in my house, right? Like really, if we aren't living in a war zone, if you've got access to clean water, food, shelter, and somebody cares about us, everything else is just icing on the cake. Yeah. So if we can be grateful even for the little things. Hot water in a shower in the morning, how good is that? And we don't have to go down to the well for 3 kilometers and carry it back on the top of our head and then do a little wash because the rest of the water needs to be drunk or used for food preparation, you know. So if we can be grateful for the little things, if life is really dark and tough, just focus on the tiny little things, allow that gratitude into your heart, and that will literally open you up to being able to be grateful for the bigger things. Yeah, don't wait until you get, you know, the engagement ring or the big car, the promotion, to feel a bit of gratitude, because that's not going to last. We want to engrave the pathways in our bodies and in our brains that hold gratitude as a steady thing. So now I'm in a stage in my life where if I am going through something that's really, really difficult, so my dog actually died 2 weeks ago, and that's, you know, that's like, you know, worst weekend ever.
Yeah.
And the grief has been just so intense, but I've allowed it to be there. You can probably hear it in my voice right now. I've allowed it to be there because I know if I stuff it down, it's gonna just be there and it's gonna want to be felt at some point in time or other. But with that grief comes the gratitude for all the joy he's given us, for the 14 years that we had him for, and for all those moments that we had together, you know, on the beach playing, and you know, pats and, you know, wags of tail when you come home. And I know that the grief I feel is in proportion to how much I loved them and how much joy there was. And I know that, you know, down the track, what's going to remain is the gratitude for the good stuff we had, because the grief will have been processed. So even when life is really dark and difficult and heavy, I know that gratitude is going to get me through. So, you know, if I have one message for anybody out there, just practice gratitude. And even if you can't feel it, to start with, write it down. I'm grateful for, I'm grateful for, I'm grateful for at least 3 things a day, so that your mindset, what you focus on, grows, so that your mindset can start looking for things to be grateful for. The blue sky, the little sparrow, the, you know, the snatch of a song that you enjoy, or that resonates with you, that plays with you, that makes your heart lift. You know, even if it's just tiny, tiny little things, it doesn't matter. Gratitude is an energy that if you can embody that, your life will move into magic and miracles and manifestation and opening doors in ways that you could never have anticipated. So that's my, from my own personal experience, that's my biggest message, really.
What a beautiful share. And also, like, when you're gratitude, you're feeling gratitude, you're on that frequency that the universe is going to send you more things to be grateful for. It's like you said, you start to notice things in your life that you can be grateful for. And if you really want to work on manifesting, write down things that you're grateful for that haven't even happened yet, right?
Yes.
And watch how your mind trick the universe, or, you know, however you want to say it, into bringing those things. And I just want to say, I'm so sorry about your dog.
Thank you.
I lost my heart dog a year and 7 months ago, and I still bawl my eyes out about it. It's just like,
Yeah.
Yes. I was like tearing up super hard when you were talking about it, because it's just like, I know that love and I know that pain, and it's just like, fuck, why can't they live as long as we do? It's
Ain't that the truth? I've been thinking about that a lot too, and I actually have come to the conclusion that the reason why they don't live as long is to encourage us to really live in the moment with them. Like my dog, you know, was getting old and getting on for, you know, last couple of years, and I knew that we weren't going to have him forever. And I was, you know, all those things that I had previously taken for granted, like, oh, we're just going to go to the beach, oh, we're going to feed you dinner, like, they became little anchor points to really enjoy, because I knew there was an end to it. Yeah. So yeah, anybody who's ever lost their dog knows exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah, I just saw something online like this week about how, you know, dogs live in the moment so much, because you know, a day for us is like a week in their life, right? And it's
Yeah.
like they want to take advantage of every moment of that week, right?
Yes.
And I was like, oh, that's so true. They're just like in the present all the time.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah.
Dogs
Yeah.
are the best thing on this planet. I swear to
Aren't
God.
they?
My husband and I say this all the time to each other, like, how lucky are we that we live on a planet where dogs exist? Like, there could have been like anything, right? Anything that creation could come up with, and it came up with dogs. And it's just like,
Yes.
they're just like unconditional love in like adorable bodies. Like,
Yes.
it's so
Yeah.
amazing. So
Yes.
grateful for dogs,
Yes.
for sure.
Yes. Yeah, dogs are definitely the best.
They totally are.
Mm.
Um, Awesome. So can you let people know where they can find your books, where they can find you if they want to connect? Anything other offers or anything you want to share?
Yeah, so I have a website. It's just irisangellys.com. My other offering is I've created a course to go with this most recent book, Your Body is the Portal to Your Soul, where the practices that I describe in the book, I walk people through them, and so there can be a deepening of those practices. So instead of reading it going, oh, do these, I will actually explain to it, and there's like meditations and processes that people can do. And again, this is to play with, right? This is to try this practice. If it works for you, if it makes your life better, stick with it. If it doesn't, move on and try something else. Like I'm not attached to how you find your bliss, as long as you find your bliss. And it's a 3-month course, and it is super powerful and transformational. If you want to check and see how you are at with how you're tracking with your relationship with your body, there's a quiz on my website as well. My books are available in all the online bookstores in hard copy and ebook. And in early January, I'm going to record an audiobook. So that will be available probably by February or March next year as well.
Nice.
And I'm on Facebook it's called Passion to Thrive, which is the name of my first book. And I've just started an Instagram page. I'm not quite sure how to navigate that yet, so bear with me, but I'm on there. I'll get there. And I have a YouTube channel as well, which is jam-packed with readings and meditations and podcasts and all sorts of beautiful, yummy goodies to inspire and calm and uplift. I've written a number of poems, and they're in the books, but they're also spoken by me on the YouTube channel. So just enjoy, revel.
Amazing. And all those links are going to be in the show notes. You sent them to me. So, if listeners can't write them down while they're listening, just check out the show notes later on. And thank you so much, Iris. It was so great to have you on, and such a great reminder to play through life a little bit. And yeah, I just appreciate your time. And if you're listening and this resonated, please like, share, subscribe, send it to someone that you think could use it. And I'll see you all at the next episode. Have a beautiful rest of your day.
You too. Thank you so much, Chris.